All right, so if statements can be nested within other if statements. That's what a nested if statement is. So think about what nested means, right? You're thinking of like little birds. They're inside of the nest, right? They're embedded within the nest. Okay, so this is a very similar idea, right? Here's my regular if statement. If I have some condition, I'm going to call it condition A in this case, then the top code is executed if condition A is true, and the bottom code is executed if condition A is false, okay? Now this gets more tricky right here. What if we took where it says code if condition A is true and put another if statement nested or stuck in the inside of this if statement already? Let me show you what that looks like. So we have if condition A is true, and of course else and end if, right? And then right in there, we smack a whole nother if statement. If condition B is true, then do the top code there, else do the bottom code in there. All right, so this is a little tricky, and let me walk you sort of through it, all right? So the computer asks a question. It says, hey, is this true? Let's say it's not true, okay? Then it flies all the way down to this else statement and does this, right? That's the same way it worked before. However, if the computer then asks the question some other time, is condition A true? And it is true, then it will proceed to this top code, at which point another condition will be checked. So condition B is now checked, okay? And then this code is done if condition B is true, and this code is done if condition B is false. Okay, so that's kind of tricky. Let me show you an example that goes the other way, right? You can also put a nested if statement in the bottom half, right? So you can say, all right, let's check condition A. If it's true, then here we are, we're going to do this one. If it's false, right, if condition A is false, then we're going to come down here and ask a whole nother question and do a whole nother set of code paths with this second condition, condition B. All right, that's a little tricky. We're going to do some examples and get used to it. And just to point out, you can also have two if statements, one in the top and one in the top, and one in the bottom. And you can even have 3, 4 levels of nested if statements. This can get pretty complicated pretty quick. So let's make sure we're paying close attention to these examples. All right, so again, we're here at the Girls Club, and we want to do that example I was just talking about. It says, what year were you born? Okay, and we want that to be above 95 if they're a girl. We don't want it to matter if it's a boy, right? If they're a boy, they're not in the club. And if they're an adult, right, then we don't care. We're going to say, all right, you're in no matter what. All right, so we say, for example, if textbox2.text equals adult, else and end if, right, we're going to set up our this is our outside if statement. Okay, so if they are an adult, what happens? They're in the club automatically, right? So if this condition turns out to be true, then we want them to be in the club. So right there we can say, all right, you're in the club. All right. However, if they're not an adult, then we need to check on the year they're born, and we need to check whether they're a boy or a girl, right? So now we go to the bottom and we have a whole separate if statement, okay? And in this one you'll see I said if the textbox1.text is greater than 95 and they're a girl, right? That means they're in the club. If this is not true, which means either they're too old, or they're a boy, right? Because this is and, both of these have to be true. They have to both be a girl, and they have to be born after 95. Then they're not eligible. All right, so let me walk you through this one more time. All right, if the text box says adult, then you're eligible right away. All adults can get in the club, okay? But if it doesn't say adult, we come down here and we ask another question. We say, is it greater than 95 and are you a girl? And if that's true, we're here. If that's not true, then we go down to this else statement, which says you're not, right? If you're a boy, then this would not be true. Or if you were born after 95 or before 95, this would also not be true, and you'd be down here not eligible. Let me show you another example. So let's say, I don't know if you know this, I just made this up. In the USA, right, you have to be 13 to use Facebook. That's actually true. But let's say in the UK, which is England, the United Kingdom, you have to be 15 to use Facebook. I just made that up, okay? And so this program will tell you, if you tell them what country you're from and you tell them your age, then it will tell you if you can use Facebook, okay? So we can say, all right, if textbox1.text equals USA, then, and we have our else and our end if, okay? If you were born in the USA, then you have to be 13 to use Facebook, okay? So we can say, all right, we know this in the top half here, we know that the person is from the USA, right? So we can say, all right, if their age is 13 or greater, and we can set up our own little internal if statement on the side here. If they're 13 or older, then yeah, you can use Facebook. But if not, you can't. All right, so that's my top half. Okay, if textbox1.text is the USA, that means we're from the USA. Then we check to see whether they're 13 and tell them they can use it if they are, and they can't if they're not. All right. However, if they didn't type USA, that means that they're in the UK, right? So we're going to come down here and do the UK, right? So they're down here only if they're from the United Kingdom, if they're from England. And so we put another if statement. We say, all right, well, for this case, that should say 15, guys. My mistake. Let me fix that, actually. Ready? All right, ready for my beautiful handwriting? 1, 5. All right, there we go. Okay, so if the text box 2.text is greater than or equal to 15, well, then of course they can use Facebook, but they can't if they're not. Okay, so this is getting a little bit ugly and a little bit tricky, right? We've got 3 different if statements, and they're nested within each other in this one. Let me run you through it one more time. So if we talk about the outer if statement, if they're from the US, we're in this top half. If they're not, then they're in the bottom half. Okay? And in either half, it checks to see how old they are. If textbox.2.text is greater than or equal to 13, then you can use it. Otherwise, you can't. And down here, it's the same. It's just that the age is 15, right? All right. We're going to have 2 assignments with this new concept, and I know it's a little bit of a tricky one, but hopefully you guys picked it up from here. If not, go back, watch these videos again, listen to the examples, and ask me questions if you're confused. One of them is going to be a username and password thing, where the person puts in their username and password. Okay, if they get it right, then they'll be granted access. And there's also going to be a password so that no matter what you type in, right? No matter what username you have, there's one like sort of administrative password. If you put that password in, you always get in. Okay, and then the bottom one, you can see this little treasure chest over here. It's going to jump around automatically on the screen, and if you press the button, you need to make the square turn red, whichever square the treasure chest is within. It's going to be some fun projects. All right, some vocabulary for today: the nested if statement and the logical operator. Okay, make sure you take good notes on those because those are 2 really important concepts in conditional expressions. All right, just looking back at the objectives. We learned about logical operators, that we can do and or. We can make more than one thing go on in one condition, right? And we also learned about nested if statements, where you have an if statement within an if statement, so you can have more than just 2 places for the code to go.